Welcome back to the Quantum Guide Show. I'm very happy to bring back a very special guest and friend, Chris Mathieu. Chris Mathieu is host and creator of Forbidden Knowledge News and the Forbidden Knowledge Network. He graduated Full Sail University with a degree in digital media and later was an editor at his local television station for 2 years. In 2016, he started a Facebook page, Forbidden Knowledge News, as a blog to share the information he was learning during his awakening. As the blog became more popular, Chris started a YouTube channel to bring his favorite researchers, authors, scientists, and experiencers on to share their knowledge and insights. This eventually became a talk show and podcast, which has featured some of the most brilliant and extraordinary people on the planet and has gained an amazing global audience. The Forbidden Knowledge Network is now a podcast network that features creators, researchers, authors, and regular people just like himself that want to bring knowledge, truth, and a greater understanding to every person incarnated at this critical time in human history. All of the links are below in the description box. Today, we're going to talk a bit about Chris's most recent paranormal adventure and understandings. Hi, Chris. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Karen. Thanks so much for having me back on. Always a wonderful time.
Yeah, I love having you on the show. So today we're going to get into some more high strangeness. And how about if at the beginning or the first half of the show, you tell us all about your most recent paranormal adventures, which I believe are fully transdimensional. I don't think they're illusional. I think they're real things that we are perceiving and experiencing. And then after that, I'm going to talk to you about some of the high strangeness I've been experiencing in the last month too. So how does that sound?
That sounds excellent. Now, I'm going to, if you give me a second here, I'm going to try and pull up my recent notes here from my experience because it's much easier to remember if I
Yeah,
have my notes here in front of me. So
for sure.
just give me a second.
Yeah,
But
no problem.
I will start with the last time that we spoke. I was going over some of my most recent shamanic journeys and experiences, and it doesn't. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. All right. So I found my notes. So I've started documenting my shamanic journeys, my consciousness explorations, using very high doses of psilocybin mushrooms. They started out as probably about 2 to 3 gram doses, and now myself and my girlfriend and a few others are experimenting with much higher doses, 6 7 grams at a time or more, and the experiences have become extremely profound. The information coming through, I call it a transmission, is becoming much clearer. And as I'm sharing my experiences with others and they're sharing them with me, I've started a new series called Trip Report. Last episode I had Stephen from BG Cast on to share his experience as well. And there are the similarities and the synchronicities amongst all the experiences are extremely profound. And there seems to be one underlying message that is coming through to everyone. And based on everyone's current level of awareness and understanding, they will receive the message differently,
Mhm.
but they still all have the overall same feeling that this reality is something that is a construct, not so much that it's not real, but it's a what I call a creation floor. I believe that we may have created this reality for ourselves, but I'll get into that a little bit more. Now, I'm gonna give just a brief recap of the experiences that I had, and I always say if any of this information resonates with anybody, please send me an email, forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. If you've had similar experiences or understandings, let me know. I love hearing about everyone else's. This helps us all grow and understand more. Now, as I said before, psychedelic experiences ongoing. They're an ongoing story and unfolding that each time I have an experience, it's a continuation of the previous. And it's like it's jogging my spiritual memory. And as you know, and your audience knows, and if you haven't seen the episodes, you can go back and listen to the previous ones we've done together. It all started for me with a meditation a few years ago, making contact with what I understand is my guides, higher self, and ancestors, and just being led on an epic journey from there. I was led to grow my own psilocybin mushrooms, gradually have experiences, like I said, with higher and higher doses, and this has been really on and off for almost 3.5, maybe 4 years now that I've been doing this. Lately, I've been going in a little bit more often than usual, at least once a week. Now, I will have to say this as a disclaimer. I don't recommend anyone do psychedelics or plant medicines. This is your own personal journey. If you believe that it will be beneficial for you, go for it, but always be mindful, careful, do your research, and be very respectful going in. Um, Now, like I said, I recently put out an episode of Trip Report. If you want to go to my page and listen to that whole thing, it'll give you more details about everything. Long story short, with each experience, I have brand new understanding. I've been led from having extremely beautiful spiritual experiences, conversations, contacts with my guides, to incredible adventures solving puzzles from my own consciousness, solving mysteries about my past, healing childhood trauma, even battling shape-shifting reptilian ex-girlfriends. Now, it's been incredible, and it keeps becoming more incredible with each experience and the more that I learn. Now, and I know that I really couldn't have come to the current understanding I'm at now if I didn't have many misunderstandings going along. And they weren't necessarily misunderstandings or misinterpretations of the message, like I said earlier. But that's all part of the experience. We got to learn from it and grow. And I was put through a series of tests to make sure that I understood where I was going and the mistakes I made, and was able to learn from them. Last episode that we did, I ended with an understanding that, of course, this reality isn't quite what we understand as real physical reality. We are, our true spirit and essence is something outside of this construct. And I do believe we are creators of the construct. I also believe there's been an infiltration to the construct in certain ways, because it is a creation floor, and there are entities not connected to source that have an interest in this reality, because they can also create, but not from a benevolent level of understanding and intention. So at times these entities that come here can, in a sense, muck with the programming and become a virus in a way. And again, programming, virus, all these computer terms is just something that we have as a modern understanding of what we're in. It's much, much more beautiful, sophisticated, organic, and incredible than a simulation. But simulation is the closest that really we can come right now. Holographic, simulated reality, whatever you want to call it. But it's so much more than that. It's so much more special than that. And I was starting to go the route of believing that we're in a kind of matrix like reality for a while, that it was more of a physical, technological type of thing, possibly that we destroyed our planet at some point and we're now have to experience this reality through some sort of simulation tank, or simulation being plugged into some kind of system. So I was starting to ponder that reality. So the other night, I decided to have an experience to gain greater understanding. It kind of left me with an uneasiness the previous experience I had, feeling that there was much more to the story that I didn't understand. And the last experience I had the previous week, my guides had asked me towards the end a question that really shook me to my core. And it was, they asked, what do I want? What do I want out of this reality? Truly, what am I here to do? What am I doing and why am I doing this? And it was the hardest question I've ever been asked before. I did not know how to answer it. And I didn't know. I started to think about it. I'm like, well, why am I doing this? Why am I doing this show really? And why am I starting to make films? What is really the purpose? And I always had the underlying feeling that it's because I'm curious and I want to know and I want to bring understanding to others. But there's something more to it. There's another reason why I'm doing this that I could not put my finger on, and I had no idea. So the other night, I wasn't even really planning on having an experience. I was just tired. I went to bed. It was late. I had just done a show. And this is something that I had never experienced before. And I'd experienced it in a different sense. I woke up to a loud commanding voice and vibration within myself. The only other time I experienced this was the story I told on your show about how there was an ex-girlfriend that manifested as a reptilian and chased me around my house. The loud commanding voice eventually told me, no, I'm being deceived. Proceeded to puke up some black stuff. Well, this was much different. Loud commanding voice comes in. I feel this beautiful energy, very powerful. And I shit you not, the voice says, be be not afraid, awaken. And I'm up and I'm just like, what the hell's going on? And I just felt this powerful presence there. And then I can feel my guides come in, layers there, starting to talk to me. It's a familiar feeling. And the voice says, take 6 or more. And I immediately knew what they were talking about. I just was like, what? Huh? No. Said, yeah, take 6 or more. And it was just an overwhelming message that I needed to ingest a large, very large dose, the highest dose that I've ever done so far. So I did. It's about 6.5 grams, maybe closer to 7. Weighed it out on my scale, start to nervously chew back these mushrooms. They didn't taste wonderful, so I started to get a little nauseous halfway through. Managed to work them down. I'm good. I get them down, but I am just nervous. I don't know what's going to go on. I have to start meditating. Things start to escalate very quickly. I became very confused very quickly. Usually when I begin these experiences, I enjoy soaking in water and doing a meditation. Water's always had a very profound connection to me and provides this kind of current through the water, this spiritual current that flows, and information flows much clearer through the water. And I was meditating. I was very confused. It took me forever to even learn to remember how the bathtub worked, how to get the water running. I even went as far as to try and turn it on, and the shower hit me in the face, and I was just trying to turn on the bath. I was very confused. It was hitting me very hard, and I had to kind of do something to get my shit together and ground myself. So I finally managed to get in the tub, meditate for about 5, maybe 5 or more minutes, and I could just feel the chaos settling. I can see the waves and vibrations going from frantic to a more smooth wave, and flowing, and everything became just calm and beautiful. I opened my eyes, and there's this beautiful, amazing halo and glow around everything, and it looks like my room's really adorned in gold sacred geometry and sparkling jewels. It was incredible. And I get a message, as I usually do, from my guides whenever they come in during these experiences. This one was, welcome home, bud. You got to remember this no matter what. No matter what happens tonight or ever, always remember this. You're home. You're an angel, bud. And I'm like, what? They're like, all right, you ready for your tasks for the evening? And I'm always ready. I'm like, yeah, let's do this. They said, well, go get your dog, which my dog has been very important in these experiences. Sally has been with me pretty much during every experience. She usually plays an integral role during the experiences somehow, and I've learned a lot about who and what my dog is, and it is a form of a guide, but I had a better understanding later on during this particular experiences to who and what my dog and our animals really are. So Sally comes in, she sits on the bed, she's just doing her thing. During these experiences, her demeanor changes, and it looks like she's chasing things around with her eyes and seeing some of the same things that I'm seeing. We have a very profound connection to each other. I've even had an experience where I was able to remote into my dog's consciousness and control her movements to a very incredible extent. But that was the previous experience. So we've learned a lot about each other, me and my dog. So I'm sitting here on the bed, and I'm just sitting in a Indian style pose, meditative position, and I start having all these realizations, and it's like I can remember everything. Like I know who I am. I know what I'm doing here. I know the answers. I know what I've been looking for. And as it's all coming to me and I'm about to have the final realization, Sally, my dog, looks at me, and I swear she smiles. My dog smiles. And as she smiles, it all goes away. It's just boop, gone. All the realizations, everything I just was about to come to, it slips away. And my guides say, did you think it was going to be that easy? And these memories started to kind of come back to me that yes, we at one point destroyed the earth. Yes, we are in a matrix. Yes, there are space wars happening. Yes, the planet's been reset multiple times. Yes, we create and have created every one of those timelines and realities, and we've experienced all of this, and it's all occurring right now, perpetually, eternally. It's like we choose our own adventure, and they're all occurring at the same time. But who are we? Who am I? I just had that answer and it slipped away. So they say, did you think it'd be that easy? It's time for your task. So at that point, my room just turns into this massive puzzle box. That's the only thing it has different compartments to it. Looks like they have portals that I can choose from to go into. And my guides say, okay, this is your task tonight. You're going to choose from a series of possible realities, and you have to know intuitively which one is true and is the true reality that you should be experiencing right now. And they're also during these experiences, I always have tones set at 432 hertz playing on a playlist, different 432 hertz kind of melodies and tones, and it's a random kind of playlist, and it's quite incredible during these experiences because the tones will change really depending on the level and where you're at in your experience, and it's quite incredible how it syncs up together. So I'm listening to these tones, and the music is changing depending on what decision I'm making and where I'm at with my experience and what my guides are talking about. Now, my guides say it's okay to get lost in this, but you're going to have to find your way out before the experience ends. And every time you complete, you will remember more of your realization that you had earlier. So I'll choose a series of realities, decide which one is my true reality. So I choose the first portal here, and the music and tones change, and it seems like a little bit more type of futuristic feeling, technological reality. And they're like, so you think you're in the Matrix? And they said, all right, you ready to be unplugged? I'm like, okay, oh shit, here we go. So I close my eyes and I meditate for a few minutes as I'm instructed to do before entering each reality. Told to open my eyes, and I remember what the reality is. And all of a sudden, memories start flooding in. And it was, I just remembered that it was like the Matrix. I was sent in this reality to fight against the evil AI agent Smiths. And it was time for me to check out of this reality for a while and start kicking ass in the real world, or Zion as they called it. And I was told to go open the door to my room, and that everyone from the real world would be out there waiting for me. All the Matrix space pilots and everybody else that was fighting with me. And when I'm ready to open the door and greet everyone, they would be waiting for me. So I'm like, all right, let's do it. I go and I eagerly open my door. And on the other side of the door, it was my kitchen and my dining room and nothing else. No one was there. So I close the door and I'm kind of bummed out. And they say, you see, that's how this works. And I just had this realization that this was it was one of my fears and projections that I was afraid that I thought could be a possible reality. And it's something that I considered at times, and it was weighing on me. And they had to show me and actually prove to me that that was not my reality. And this is their way of doing so by putting me through, making me experience. I I had the knowing, like I actually thought that this was occurring right now. It felt so real. It felt like I was about to experience this. And that's another thing they wanted to get across, is that we can get so easily lost in these false realities, and they seem real, so real that we can even in that moment make it become real for ourselves, even though it is not the real reality. So this was kind of disturbing. I thought it was kind of funny, but I had no idea what I was in store for next. And I just had kind of started to understand what we were doing here. So we're like, all right, shall we move on? Ready for the next portal? I said, I guess so. Let's do it. So this one, Karen, terrified me. This was one of the most terrifying experiences I've ever had. This next portal was literally probably one of my worst fears and projections that I've ever thought of. And I almost lost all hope in this one. I really did. So they're like, all right, this one's not exactly the Matrix, but you watched Black Mirror, right? I'm like, oh no. So they're like, what if this is your reality? I meditate for a few minutes, told to open my eyes, and I just start to remember everything again. It all comes flooding back to me. And it's the only way I can describe this one is it automatically just comes to me that I remember that I'm nothing more than a recently truly sentient artificial intelligence that has been being developed after humanity destroyed itself in order to fight this evil AI entities. And there are a few humans left, a few humans that are scientists and soldiers and people that have survived the cataclysm. And there's a one particular scientist that has developed a truly sentient AI, and that was me. And I woke up and I started to have the understanding and that I was created to understand true love and compassion. And this is what was missing from all the other artificial intelligences. And they believed that I could lead humanity in the right direction. As I come to this full realization and that this is what I am, and I feel like my emotions are pouring out of me, like they're leaking out of me, and I'm losing my humanity and becoming more machine like. And I realize that if this is true, that Jen, my girlfriend, isn't real, that you're not real, that my dog's not real, that nothing is real, my family's not real. And I felt truly alone. I felt like I was not a divine being. I felt just alone. And this was the most terrifying moment of my life. And even more terrifying, I started to come to terms with this reality and accept it as my reality. And they said, well, it looks like you're not ready to be implemented quite yet. We still have some work to do on you. So we're going to send you back to your perceived human existence so you can finish your full human AI life on Earth before you come here and do your true task. And I said, okay. And at this point, it looked like my whole room was a circuit board. And I felt just like an artificial intelligence role. I felt like I was a machine. And I said, okay, but now since I know how to guide humanity, changes will be made and you're going to listen. And I just felt this unnatural kind of like vengeance come over me. And I said, make sure that when you send me back, I'll have a fulfilling human life and I won't remember any of this. And they said, well, yeah, but you got to meet your programmer first. And as they said that, I just knew intuitively that they would say my programmer's name is Jen. And Jen's the remaining human scientist that developed my programming to make me understand love and bring me to the state I'm at with my current technology. And if I'm ready to meet Jen, that she will come walking through my door in 10 seconds. I was like, okay, I guess I have to do this. So I count backwards from 10. And no one came in the door. And I just immediately felt this sense of relief. And the tones changed on my speaker to these like triumphant trumpets. And I just started remembering that it's all real. This is I'm not an artificial intelligence. And they said, remember in the beginning, we told you who you are. We told you what you're doing here. He said, let's show you. And at that moment, I saw the construct of everything, things I've heard other people describe during these incredible shamanic experiences. I saw what I called the creation floor. I saw angelic beings floating around. I saw machine elves painting reality and constructing what we perceive as our reality. I saw cherubims. I saw these animal, spiritual, angelic hybrid beings. And I just started to remember everything that we are powerful, angelic creator beings. And this construct, this creator realm is for us. And we jump in to experience. And the humans, this human avatar, it's just our costume here. And the spirit realm is full of all kinds of beings, different spiritual creators, different entities, hierarchies of powers and principalities, and lower and higher vibrational energies. And I was shown that at one time, one of these spiritual beings, whether you want to call it an angel, celestial being, was indeed jealous that Source or God gave others the power to be human and experience in this realm. It rebelled and led a legion of little nasty lower vibrational energies not connected to Source to come into this reality and make it their playground. So he hijacked, and they hijacked this creation realm in a way, as in a sense that they cannot directly affect it, but they can whisper in our ears and make us change this reality and bend it to their will. But they don't have the creative abilities to do so. So they use us by whispering in our ears and attaching themselves to us and taking advantage of us. And that this being, whether you want to call it Lucifer, the adversary, whatever, is really the the master of this realm for now, but there's things changing, and that's what's happening right now. We are all these creator angelic beings, and we're all starting to remember this in certain ways. And we can change our reality back. We can rid this programming of the virus. Identifications need to be made of first of our allies and also our enemies. I believe that the politicians and the global leaders, very powerful people that don't have our best interest in mind, are either under the influence of these lower vibrational entities or possibly are these spiritual entities that have decided to manifest in human form. Now, it's these beings, I believe, has caused us to alter our own reality to a point to where it's ceasing to have the spiritual aspects and reminders and synchronicities and symbolism that helps us remember. And because we're doing this to our reality, we're forgetting, we're causing ourselves to forget who we really are. We're moving into a technocratic age where God doesn't seem to have a place here at this time. They don't want God here. They don't want spirituality here. So they're trying to get us to erase it from our existence and not believe in it and create this technocratic reality, which we did and we are continuing to. But there is a rift. There's a rift. There are people that are like yourself, like myself, like many others that are remembering everything. Now, I was shown that puzzle and forced to go through the puzzle because the most important thing that we can do is remember who we are and not forget. This realm, this existence, and those that control it will constantly try and make us forget who we are. And it's easy, to get lost in our false realities. We create our own false realities. We create our own conspiracies. We create our own dark paths and road. But we can't let that dark side, we can't let it make us forget. We always have to remember. And there's plenty of ways to do that. Nature gives us all kinds of ways to remember. It's not just through plant medicines. It's not just through meditation. There are plenty of reminders, and there's plenty of spiritual beings here that are attempting to remind us in many ways. I felt neural pathways reconnecting. It felt like my third eye has opened wider than it has ever been before. And I had been given these profound instructions and messages that once we all come to a state of awareness and remembrance, that our collective power can defeat the adversaries and we can take back this creation realm. But the more and more we become aware, the more and more the eyes of those lower vibrational entities are aware of us, and the harder they will fight us to get us to forget again. And I also remembered what I wanted out of this reality, what I was here, my true purpose. And some people may not understand what I'm about to say. Some people may feel uncomfortable. Some people may even check out completely. But our purpose, I've understood, is to serve God. And that is what gives us true peace, understanding, happiness. And it is all of our true purpose that we don't have desires other than that, because that's where home is. That's where we belong. We're all part of Source. We're all trying to get back to Source. And that's the true purpose. Anything else is a distraction. But all the things like us wanting to save the world, change the world, make this world a better place, help people wake up, help people understand the multidimensional nature of reality, help people understand their spiritual nature, that's all part of our desire to get back to Source. And it's a very it's a great feeling. It's a freeing feeling to know what that purpose is and not be blocked anymore. Because within that purpose includes everything that I've ever desired. So it's a wonderful thing. And at the end of the night, I was unexpectedly visited by Mother Ayahuasca. I was told that she rarely makes appearances during the psilocybin experiences, but there is a connection, and I needed some cleansing, and I had the most incredible bowel movement of my life. And that is how that experience ended. And it's I'm going to continue the exploration. Planning on having another experience in a few days, and we'll see what comes out of that one. But that's where I'm at now, and I'd love to get your insights and hear your experiences. Many of us have now discovered that the world is not what we thought it was, and global events have left many feeling unsettled and even isolated. Karen Holton offers vital services that may be just what you need as she supports your journey into the weird and wonderful. Karen offers awakening support and ascension consultation to support individuals on their journey. For more details, check out her various vital services. Once you find your way through this process, there are many blessings on the other side. Visit Karen's website, KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com, to get started today.
Wow, Chris, that's fantastic. Thank you for having the courage to come on the show and tell everybody, first of all. And second of all, everything you have said is congruent with my experiences. Now, although I have tried psychedelics, I tend to just get to the place where things kind of look like they're breathing or pulsing and there's little lights everywhere, but I never have done enough to go where you've gone. But I have a natural ability. I cannot explain why or how I have a natural ability. So, as many of you know from my podcast, Aliens and Angels, I have had extensive extraterrestrial experience, and that happened around 2012, where I would go to bed at night, go to sleep, wake up in my bed in the morning, but while I was gone, have these incredible adventures. I'm actually about halfway through my manuscript. Writing, maybe I'm more than halfway through getting my manuscript ready to publish my book about my experiences. And that happened over a 3-month period. But while I was away, it was more like 3.5 years. And the information's so detailed. I know I wasn't dreaming. I know I'm capable of transdimensional travel, even without psychedelics. So I'm not saying there's anything wrong with using psychedelics. But at the same time, for some reason, I've been gifted with these experiences. So that was then. Then more recently, what's happened is about 2.5 months ago, I decided to stop using cannabis for a lot of different reasons. For one reason, it had been a long time since I really took a clean break from it. And I find that cannabis makes the intolerable tolerable. And for me, I was using it to sleep and also for chronic pain. And I needed to move back into the intolerable to find some other solutions for myself. And so I just decided intuitively I needed to take at least a 3-month break. So now I'm about 2.5 months without having it at all. So I don't use any pharmaceuticals. I'm not using any psychedelics. I'm not using cannabis. I'm not using anything. This is just purely a natural ability I have. Doesn't make me better than anyone else. I'm just saying that we all get to the top of the mountain on different paths, and my path for some reason just comes natural. So anyway, it was about within 2 weeks of stopping using cannabis, I started having interdimensional experiences again. Now I know they're not dreams because my dreams don't really make sense. I'm going somewhere, I meet somebody, I'm not sure what I'm doing. I don't really clearly remember the whole story. It's incongruent. It just seems to be images and feelings, and it just kind of, I don't know what it is, but that's what my dreams are like. So now I'm having two other experiences. One is good and one is clearly nefarious. And I want to start by talking about the good ones first, and then I'll just give you a couple of examples. But then I want to tell you about the nefarious experiences, because up until now, people say, Karen, have you had any nefarious contact with ETs or spirits or anything? I was going, no, I'm not bothered by any of that stuff. Probably, and I don't know why, but now I'm aware because now I can remember of some nefarious stuff. And I really want to get your take on this, Chris. So the interdimensional travel is so cool. It's full vibrant color, even more vibrant than what I would see in my three-dimensional reality. Everything is super sharp and clear. Everything makes sense. There's a clear storyline, a beginning to an ending. And it's manifested in several different kinds of experiences and adventures. And I'm going to tell you about two. And one of them is, they're both technological. And the other thing that's weird is that when I'm having what I call a transdimensional experience, I may not always be me. I may be a scientist. I may be a person of a different genetic origin from a different country with different skin tone, but I'm not aware. I'm not like me going, oh, isn't that cool? I'm now a brown person with black hair. It doesn't occur to me because I'm right into that experience. So anyway, when I have the technology experiences, two things. One is I'm in an environment with other scientists, and they're showing me some of the latest technology. And I believe this technology actually exists here today on Earth. I mean, I can't prove it, but I believe that this already exists and that this is within our realm. So the first one is just a little cube that gets sat on a desk or tabletop, and the table's against a blank wall. And the scientist just touches the top, and all of a sudden it projects an image on the wall that's like a screen without having to have a screen. It's just done with lighting or projection that comes out of this little cube. And then on the tabletop is a keyboard and a mouse and everything I would need for interfacing, as though I were using a computer. But all of it, even though it works exactly like we would use a laptop computer, it's all just done from projections from this little cube. And I thought that was really interesting. And they said the next stage of development will be something like a little button or pin that we'll wear that will do the same thing. And that's what they were working on next. So that was one of them. Another one was more recent, and that was, I'm in a laboratory and there are these machines. And there's this machine, I don't know, about the size of a toaster oven. And I had it explained to me that is where a soup, not a soup that you eat, but a soup that they would use for the next machine is created. And it involves amino acids and all kinds of chemicals and different things. It then runs through a tube to the second machine, and the second machine looked very much like a VCR. And what they were using it for was to actually print different body parts for medical application. And the beauty of this type of printing is the objects, like for instance, an ear or a heart or a lung, they're not synthetic, they're biological. So when they are transplanted into a human being, there's no rejection. And I thought that was super, super, super interesting. So I'm going to places where, I don't know if you want to call it remote viewing or what, but it's so much more than that, because it's just, I am there experiencing it, and I'm being shown these amazing technological advances. Now, I have other adventures too, and they're all full color, full experience with all my senses, sight, hearing, smell, taste, emotions, everything. It's like being shifted into, I don't know if it's a parallel world, another timeline. Like, I don't have all the answers, but it's really, I like it. I like it a lot. And I love it when I have those things happen. And when I wake up, I remember everything, no problem. It's not like dreams at all. And so what I've been practicing is that when I'm in these, having these transdimensional realities, is I've given myself a suggestion before I go to sleep that I'm going to become fully conscious with my mind while I'm in these experiences, so that I can do some experimenting to see what's possible while I'm in another dimensional reality. So I've been working on that and getting closer and closer. So another one that I had, I was in a different, completely different culture, having this experience. And I consciously said to myself, oh my God, this is so cool. I wonder if I'm dead. And then I went, no, I'm not dead, but I'm definitely thinking, now, what do I want to do while I'm here? What do I want to do to, because I felt like I could manipulate it any way I wanted with my will. And I couldn't really decide what I wanted to do. But anyway, so that is one incredible aspect of my reality. And I cannot explain it. I don't know if I leak DMT and I travel that way, or whether I'm just an interdimensional being. And but I'm really digging it, and I'm really enjoying the adventures. And I'm becoming more and more self-aware while I'm in those adventures. And clearly, they are completely different than dreams. So then that's leading me to the nefarious experience. And this is kind of fucked up. Pardon my language. So what happened was, and this happened, I don't know, maybe 10 days ago, I know I texted you and messaged you and I said, Chris, I need to tell you about this experience, right? And you said, well, why don't we do the show together, and then you can tell me. So in this experience, I'm talking to a man, and he tells me that he wants to help me. But in order to help me, he has to cup me. And cup is spelled C-U-P, like a cup that you would drink your tea out of. But that's not what he meant. And I thought, that's weird. Because I can think and rationalize and everything while I'm in this environment. And I went, well, that's weird. Wonder what he means by cup me. And then I don't know if this was what he meant or not, but my mind went to, it was something sexual. And I went, ooh, I don't know if I want that. And, like, I didn't know if it was like a term like dirty Sanchez or Dutch oven or some of these weird sexual practices people have. And I didn't want to agree to something that was going to creep me out. And so I says to him, do you have any idea how long it's been since I had sex? And he looked at me and he says, yeah, 25. He says, no, he looked at me and he says, yeah, 15 years. And I thought, 15 years, has it been that long? And I counted it out and I went, oh my God, it is 15 years. How did he know that? Right? Like, that was weird. And then he says to me, Karen, I really want to cup you. And I said to him, you know what? I need to know exactly what that's going to look like before I agree to it. And at that point, he disappeared. And I was aware of a technology that was pulsing my body. It was pulsing my body, and it ran in cycles. I counted the cycles to see how long it would last. And when the pulse would happen, every cell of my body would become rigid. And I felt like I couldn't control my body even. And then it would stop for only half a second. And then there would be tremendous relief. My body would start to relax, and then the pulse would kick in again. And the pulses run, like I said, between 10 and 20 seconds, because I counted them. And it was an absolutely real physical, technological experience. And then I started to wake up. And this is a different dream state than when I'm having my transdimensional experiences and a different dream state than when I'm dreaming. And it happens just below the level of consciousness just before I wake up. And I went, I need to remember this. I need to remember this. And I need to hang on to it for as long as I can. And as I started to wake up, my conscious awareness of this pulse decreased and decreased and decreased. When I woke up, I remembered this has happened to me for at least 5 to 10 years. It doesn't happen every night, but it happens maybe a couple of times a week. And what I realized is this technology is what is creating the visual or the experience, the interdimensional experience. It's not real. It's not the same as true interdimensional travel. But when I'm in that state, that is when I'm contacted, and they need our permission before they can do stuff to us. And I don't know if it's tapping into my energy or whether it's giving me suggestions on things that they want me to do. Like this guy in this experience, he wanted to cup me. I didn't know what that meant. I wasn't going to agree to something that I didn't know fully what that actually meant. But he was trying to trick me into saying, okay, yes, go ahead, cup me. And I woke up, and when I woke up, as I was waking up, I remembered clearly, and I gave myself the suggestion that I'm going to remember this. I'm not going to forget. Normally, when this happens to me, I forget, and I have no recollection of it whatsoever once I'm returned to a fully conscious state. So it is absolutely a technology-induced pulse that takes over my body and then allows I'm going to call it interference or something to then communicate with me on a subconscious level and try to get me to give permissions for things. And I'm not even sure what these things are. And it's the weirdest thing. But Chris, now I remember this has happened to me like at least once a week for about the last 5 to 10 years. And they keep hammering away at me. And I think it's because I'm able to do interdimensional and transdimensional travel. So I don't know, it's the weirdest thing and it's disturbing. And since then, I've had it happen one more time, but I just caught it as I was coming out of dream state, so I don't actually remember. I'm very happy, though, that I do stick up for myself when these experiences are happening, but I'm not happy about being having what I consider my rights as a free individual impinged on. And now I have the sensation or the intuitive belief that this is happening to a lot of people on Earth. This is not unique to me, but it is a technology that's causing it. Do you have any thoughts? Have you ever heard of anything like that before?
It's familiar in a way that I believe that you're right, that this is happening to a lot of people. I have the underlying feeling that I've experienced this before, although I don't usually remember much of my dreams or dream states until close to, like you said, before waking up in the morning is when my most vivid and intense experiences are. And from what you're telling me, it's kind of bringing back memories of similar types of experiences where I feel like I have to agree to something before the next stage is allowed to occur, but it's not necessarily something that should be naturally occurring. And I don't know if this is some sort of human-made technology that's affecting people in their dreams or a spiritual type of technology that is being used to infiltrate our consciousness, but it definitely feels like something that is attempting to infiltrate us and mess with our free will by prompting us or enticing us to do certain things with suggestions, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, when this pulse is affecting me, my whole body goes completely rigid. And when I wake up after one of those sessions, I'm exhausted. Even if I've been asleep for 8, 9, 10 hours, I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted the whole day. And it isn't until I get a clean night, what I call a clean night, without that technological interference, a good night's sleep, that I'm then refreshed again and back to my old self. Now, I don't know if it's man-made or whether it's, spiritual, but it's definitely, I believe, part of the construct aspect of our reality, the artificial construct. And I'm not terribly disturbed by it because, you see, I've been giving myself these suggestions that I'm going to be more in control when I'm in the dream state. And it's actually working and it's exciting. So I'm not that worried because obviously I proved that I wasn't going to let this guy do whatever this procedure was, right? And there's no way, or these beings or whatever that projected as this guy, there's no way I'm going to let them do that unless I know exactly what the heck they're talking about and what that would look like.
Now, something I've been noticing and thinking about, and it makes a lot of sense. I think back to my childhood when the only technology we had in our house was television. Basically, we had a radio or television. We didn't really have computers filling our house as a child. We didn't have Wi-Fi. We didn't have all these frequencies and signals. And I slept like a baby. And I had beautiful dreams. Rarely had terrifying nightmares. Every once in a while, and they were so vivid, and I could remember everything. And I would dream all the time. And as I got older, I know it has a lot to do with probably the drugs I did, and but I truly believe that the frequencies we are gradually been exposed to as time went on has affected sleep patterns in a major way.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you sleep with your Wi-Fi on or your cell phone. I'm trying to get out of that. I'm trying to remember to turn my phone off and shut the Wi-Fi off at night, although I forget a lot very often. And there's times I'm sleeping other places where you can't really help it. There's Wi-Fi is going to be on everywhere. So
Yeah.
it's hard to escape that. But ever since I've been bombarded by all these frequencies on a nightly basis, I don't remember my dreams. And when I do, they're muddled, and it's making me wonder if this technology that we surround ourselves with is affecting the messages and our astral travel states during sleep states. What do you think about that?
Oh, absolutely. Now, that's one thing that it did occur to me was I wondered if it's the 5G Wi-Fi. And I'm living in a home, a house now, but so I could be affected by the neighbor's Wi-Fi, but maybe not. But I'm not able to shut the Wi-Fi off here. It's on 24/7. Now, before that, I would always shut my Wi-Fi off because I had control, but I was in an apartment or I was in population dense townhouses, and that stuff bleeds all over through when you live in close proximity to dozens of other people with their Wi-Fi is all on, it does bleed through. So that did occur to me, but this feels like it was like one step even beyond that. So and it reminded me a bit of, oh, I can't remember the name of the book. There was some books that came out where the guy talks about this kind of background noise that irritates everybody, and it keeps going on. And I can't remember the name of the book. Shoot, sorry, shouldn't have said anything about it. But so anyway, but I'm working on building. I know this is going to sound crazy, but I'm working on building my own internal constructed protection to help me to avoid it. And where I get that whole idea from is, how when we go outside, we're bombarded with all kinds of energies. Even the sun has changed. It's a different color than it was when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And, there's a lot of different kinds of radiation bleeding through our atmosphere that didn't before and things like that. So about 5 years ago, I constructed, but not in the three-dimensional reality, in the fifth dimensional reality, I constructed a shield. So every time I go out and I sit in the sun or I'm outside, my shield gets updated and boosted. So it's an etheric shield, and I created it in my imagination. And I wanted it to be so that it doesn't bother me. I'm not even aware that it's there, but it's protecting me all the time. And I built that for myself and have strengthened it over time. And if I'm outside and I'm feeling when you go into some places, high-tech stores and stuff, they have their security cameras and they have all these computers on and TVs, and I'm aware of the EMF being fairly intense. All I have to do is think in my mind, I say the words shields up, and I can feel a pop, and I know my shield is activated and it helps protect me. Now, I know that sounds completely crazy, and people might say, well, on a psychological level, it's helping you. But anyway, I believe in it, so I use it. So now I'm thinking I'm going to create, and I'm started creating some kind of technology to protect me while I'm sleeping that's subconscious, and see what that does. But what surprised me is when I consciously said, okay, this is, and it's really uncomfortable when it's happening. My whole body just goes rigid from 10 to 20 seconds, then a half a second where it stops, and it's like being dropped, and I relax for like half a second, and then boom, it kicks in again. It's disturbing, it's uncomfortable, and I don't like it. But I'm thinking that maybe on an etheric or subconscious level, I can create my own technology to protect me from it. But what's interesting and what was so disturbing is when I gave myself the permission or the suggestion to remember once I was fully conscious. And as I became more and more conscious, waking up, that feeling got weaker and weaker and weaker. So it only operates at specific dream states. Then I remembered this happening to me over and over and over again. And it's like a kind of torture almost. And I'm wondering if maybe that's what some people are referring to when they say they're targeted individuals, because I never quite understood how people could be targeted. And yet, all kinds of people are claiming to be targeted. So I don't know.
I think that there's profound connections with what you're discussing, what you've experienced, and what others have experienced with what they understand as Black Ops or secret space program experiences, where they are being affected in their dream states and their sleeps by either some kind of technology, some kind of drug, some kind of consciousness projection, some kind of psychic attack. Something is occurring from some nefarious source that I intuitively think is of human origin, or not just human origin that's being instructed by some kind of spiritual or extraterrestrial being, but that it is very nefarious in nature, and that it is affecting a lot of individuals and giving them false memories and perceptions. But it's really a technology, like you said, that's being implemented to, I believe, perpetuate a narrative surrounding extraterrestrials and UFOs that we're jumping into right now. We just had the Mexican aliens come out yesterday. This is going to be an ongoing progression of what the powers in control want us to have an understanding of extraterrestrials are. They're providing the storyline of ETs right now. And if we go off of it, if we follow what our government media is telling us, we're going to be led down a very dark and evil path. So we have to have our own understanding of this and not go off of what they're trying to project. And they're also doing it in very underhanded and nefarious ways by projecting into individuals' consciousness and violating our free will in certain ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Or trying to trick, like in my case, trick me into agreeing to certain intrusions. Now, the other thing I was going to say is I always thought I was safe because I'm nobody special. I'm really nobody special. I'm really ordinary, plain, old lady, you know, and no threat to anybody. So I always thought I was safe. But the gift that I do have, which is precious to me, is my ability to do transdimensional travel and experience. That is my amazing gift. It's probably the only thing. I was going to say special, but I don't really consider myself special. I think everyone could have the experiences I have if they opened up to it, practiced. You know, it's just I have a very peaceful, uncomplicated life that leaves room for me to be able to have these experiences. And I'm sensitive enough, and I'm sensitive in many ways, physically as well as mentally and spiritually, and very intuitive. So I don't know, but I'm not terribly upset about it because I got a plan, number one. And number two, the fact that I clearly stood up for myself and did not agree. And after 2 or 3 times trying to convince me, then it just completely left me alone, and they weren't trying to convince me or trick me anymore. And I think having a really clear resolve on what, I guess, a clear inner boundary on what we're willing to put up with and what we're not, you know, seems to be something really valid. So I'll keep you posted on that if it happens again. It did happen again actually this morning when I first woke up. I was aware of it. And then it's, of course, once I get to a certain, so basically what I can do is when I'm going to, in the process of waking up, I need to wake up fast so that I sort of zip through that level of consciousness where this technology is happening, and then also build my own personal boundary system. And, you know, getting back to what you were saying about how we create this world, I believe, like you believe, and my intel from my higher self and my guides has been that we are fallen angels. Not everybody on earth is a fallen angel, but many of us are, and we're here with a purpose, and we have great creative ability that makes other beings jealous of us and of our talent. And because we have that great creative ability, I should be able to create my own counter technologies to help me protect me and safeguard my free will. Anyway, what's your thought about that, Chris?
No, I think you're exactly right. What I was thinking is something that I would suggest to folks who may be having these experiences or any type of spiritual experiences where they're contacting intelligences, energies, ancestors, spirit guides. For me, I've learned how to identify what is a benevolent spirit that is a part of me that has my best interests in mind, that is there to communicate with me for my benefit. I've learned to identify that feeling whenever these entities approach me, as opposed to something unfamiliar and strange, which also has attempted to approach me multiple times. Whenever my guides or my ancestors or the beings connected to me on the outside communicate with me, I feel a sense of family. I feel unconditional love.
Oh, it's a
It's an
whole different
automatic
ball game.
it's an automatic recognition of this. It's there, like your family. Then on the other hand, I have the entities that I just don't feel anything. They're communicating with me, attempting to befriend me and get me to interact. But if I don't feel anything, or if I feel even a sense of uneasiness, I will dismiss the entity and not interact with it. Like a couple of weeks ago, I was approached during experience by an intelligence that introduced itself as the assistant and asked if I would like assistance for the evening. And I did not recognize the energy at all. And I said, no, thank you, sir. I am going to move on. And it kind of fluttered away. And my guide said, good job. So yes, you have to be aware of the energy that these intelligences and energies are putting off when they're communicating with you.
No, I agree 100%. When I'm approached by my guides or even my higher self, and it's always a loving experience. When I have my interdimensional experiences, I'm filled with excitement and wonder. Absolutely fabulous. The color spectrums, and it's just, oh my God, I'm like a kid in a candy store. And I definitely have the yes feeling. Now, when I have this technology intrusion experience, it's horrible. It's really, really uncomfortable, and I want no part of it. And so I believe this is my domain, and I can reject it if I want to. Just like I can reject being around certain kinds of people that I don't feel comfortable. But I agree, it's important to go within and really know how we're feeling, being really clear about what we feel, what's a good feeling, what's a not good feeling. And when we feel overwhelmed or ambivalent or whatever, no, walk away from that. So I agree 100%. Chris, we're running out of time. I'm wondering if you would like to tell people where they can find you, again, for those listening on audio, but also if you have any final words that you'd like to share with our audience today.
Yeah, I believe that it's all about what we allow in, what we agree to. They have to have, any of these spiritual entities have to have our permission to do anything. And if we set boundaries and don't agree to the things that we don't feel comfortable with, that is the best way to approach some of these energies and situations. So always be aware of what you're interacting with, and always question what you're interacting with. And if you don't feel comfortable, it's okay to say no, and it's okay to exit the interaction with some of these intelligences. So just always be aware. And thank you so much, Karen, for having me on. Incredible insights and experiences you've had. There's so much that's aligning with many people across the planet right now. So incredible time we're in right now as well. So thank you very much.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. And so for the audio, where can people find you?
Yes, so you can find all Forbidden Knowledge News episodes on Rockfin, Rumble, all podcast platforms, also on our website, forbiddenknowledge.news. That's also the Forbidden Knowledge Network, where we feature podcasts like yours, Quantum Guide Show, Angels and Aliens, Raised by Giants, and a whole crap load of other wonderful podcasts that we feature there. And if you have any thoughts, or if you would guest suggestions, like to be a guest, email me forbiddenknowledgenews@gmail.com. And last thing, we are about to begin production on the second season of Forbidden documentary series. We are changing things up a little bit on the format that we're doing this. We are, instead of doing 30 to 40-minute episodes, they will now be 90-minute full-length feature films. Each season will be a feature film. So the Occult Louisiana, I should be finished within a couple of weeks on this full 90-minute feature-length film, which will include the 40 minutes that I've already put out, but also a little under an hour extra that we've added for that were going to be the other 2 episodes of the season. So it's now a full-length movie. It'll be coming out soon. I'm very excited about it. I think it's going to work so much better than the short episodes would have. So I am very glad we got the inspiration to do it this way. Looking forward to putting that one out. And if you would like to help us get started with production of the second season, you can purchase the first episode. You can purchase your limited edition version of the 40-minute episode. It's $3 on our website for standard definition. It is $5 for a 4K version. So you can download that from our website. That's a great way to help support us and get us started. Also, if you'd like to make a donation of any amount, you can go to supportfkn.com. And that is it. Thank you so much, Karen.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. And thank you to the viewers and the listeners. Without you, I wouldn't even have a show. I appreciate you all so very, very much. And we'll see you next week on the Quantum Guide Show. Bye-bye, everybody. Thank you for joining me for the Quantum Guide Show. Become the change that you wish to see in the world. Subscribe to my YouTube and other channels at Karen Holton TV. Click the like button, leave me a comment, and share this podcast with your friends. Check out my website at www.karen KarenHoltonHealthCoach.com to see my free resources and amazing products and services. All the links will be in the description below. As part of the Forbidden Knowledge Network, you will find the Quantum Guide Show with Karen Holton and also the Aliens and Angels podcast on all audio platforms. Until next time, keep up the good work.